John, this is the shipping area of a business. Tell us what we're going to see.
Yeah, Dave, what you're looking at here is a typical receiving dock operation in a manufacturing plant, where you would expect to see a dock door reader sitting at the exit to the distribution center. And what we have around here is a series of RFID readers which will be scanning the cases and pallets as they are loaded onto the truck.
So John, there's an RFID tag on each of these boxes?
Yeah, Dave. Matter of fact, right here you can see the RFID tag is placed onto the box. Each box, each case, if you will, on this pallet has a unique ID. So the tag defines what this box is and what's inside of it, and each one of these is unique. So as we track it through the supply chain, we'll be able to know what box is where and when.
And John, why would RFID be more attractive than barcodes for this application?
Yeah, in a manufacturing operation, it's a very human-intense process. So today they use barcode scanners. There's lots of opportunity for human error, missed scans, and whatnot. And with RFID technology, it doesn't require line-of-sight read, and it can be done very quickly and automatically, thus removing a lot of the human cost and a lot of the error out of a pick and pack and distribution operation.
Good. Well, let's see it work.
Okay. What we're going to do is, once again, imagine I'm now in the distribution center and I'm loading my truck, taking the cases through the reader. So what we have on this display is showing what's happening at this actual dock door reader as items are loaded onto the truck. This information is posted to the manifest and emailed to the retailer, showing what was actually shipped out of this particular distribution center, how many items were on the case and pallet. That information, of course, will then be checked when it's received into the distribution center's receiving operation.
So John, this is really the network management system that controls all of these EPC applications.
That's correct, Dave.
And this represents the board or Savant router that operates the readers themselves and collects data, and on a distributed architecture brings it back to this system.
Yeah, that's correct, Dave. This board actually acts as the business rule engine. We set this intelligent Savant up to manage the network of readers that are installed around the dock doors and throughout the retail environment. And it only takes information and passes it back to the enterprise based on rules that have been established for that particular business operation. For example, if you were a loss prevention professional and wanted to look at only shrink events, that is, what items have left the manufacturing operation but were never received into the receiving operation at the retail distribution center, you would query this type of device using our enterprise level software engine.
And this connects with the WAN, LANs, and dial-ups to get a connection for the network.
That's correct. It's very scalable. It's able to be placed on networks that exist or are in place today. And once again, scalability is key to any of these enterprise-wide architectures. So now as it leaves the manufacturing operation, goes into the transportation and distribution operation, one of the frequent problems that is experienced by the retailers, items actually fall off the truck. This, of course, leads to shrink. What this system will show is items that were on the manifest were not received into the retail operation, of course, giving some visibility into a potential problem in the supply chain. Now we're going to show what happens as this pallet, which is missing a box, is received into the retail distribution center. Now what you see when you come back over to this receiving area is that in the retail operation, we did not receive the full allotment of boxes that were shipped and placed on the manifest. In fact, we're missing one of the boxes, the box that fell off the truck. That gives us an exception-based report, and it gives the retail operation some sense as to what their receiving shrink might be.
So John, this is an intelligent shelf. Tell us what we're looking at on the screen.
Sure. Well, what we have, as you'd mentioned, David, this shelf actually has an RFID reader built into it with a series of items which have been individually tagged with RFID tags. On this screen up here, what you're seeing is the shelf inventory status. What this shelf is doing is every 10 to 15 seconds, it's going out and checking what the inventory level is. And as you can see, for example, Rogaine for women, we have 5 boxes on the shelf. We have 5 boxes sitting in inventory.
Good. Well, John, let's see how it works.
Well, if I was to take a few of these boxes off the shelf, 2 boxes I've removed of Rogaine, what you should see is our inventory will be reduced by 2 count. Now, in typical retail operation, once you get below a certain number of items on the shelf, you typically have a restock event. And what we have here is automated that event. You get a restock report, you get information delivered to the store manager that tells them they need to replenish this particular shelf in the store.
Great. Well, let's see what happens when there's a sweep.
Well, a sweep is typically, once again, perpetrated by a bad guy who'll come into your store, take a bunch of items, if you'd be so kind.
Sure.
And takes all those items, sweeps them from the shelf, and steals them, typically because they have high resale value. What this system does, in that it's monitoring the shelf and managing the shelf all the time, will alert the store personnel when that shelf sweep occurs and drive that information to the appropriate loss prevention and store management person.
So John, what kind of information does the store employee get when they have a sweep like that?
Well, one of the challenges facing store personnel today is they have less people in the stores. How to get that information effectively and efficiently to the person who needs that information, the actionable data as it were. So what we have here is a product concept which we call the tracker, and it takes information from the smart shelf. It tells us what actually was taken, it tells us the stock number, the shelf location, and also gives us the opportunity, in the case of a sweep event, to look at the video. As you can see here, a live video shot of me approaching that particular shelf, swiping the shelf, and then of course leaving the store. So now you have a record not only of what was taken, when it was taken, where it was taken from, but you also have a visual image of who took it.
So the store employee can make a judgment call of whether to intervene or not intervene based on what he sees.
Absolutely. Getting him real-time information where it's needed at the right time and to the right person.
Great. So John, tell me about this setup. This looks like an overhead zone protection. How does it work?
Yeah, Dave, very similar to the smart shelf, except what we've done is we've taken those detection systems and we've placed them up over top of the table that we're watching, in this case an apparel application, and have set up a zone of protection around the merchandise that allows us to monitor the inventory as it sits on the shelf, and of course also allows us to know if a certain quantity of those items are taken, once again looking at a swipe type of scenario.
And how big of an area can that protect in the zone?
In this scenario, what we have is a zone of protection. It's about 15 foot in diameter around the table. So we are monitoring all the inventory within this space.
Great. Well, let's see how it works.
Okay, well, in this first scenario, what I'd like to show you is when we take an item off the shelf, the system will, every 10 to 15 seconds, check for the inventory level and decrement the inventory when it sees that it has fallen by 1.
Great.
When I return that item, it'll replenish the inventory and correct it to the full status again.
Well, I can understand why that would be very, very important to the retail operations group. But let's talk about loss prevention for a minute. How would it work for a loss prevention application?
Well, a loss prevention application, typically they're looking for fraudulent activity, and obviously taking 1 or 2 items off of the table is a normal sales day. But what we have is the opportunity to start looking at excessive number of items leaving an inventory at a point in time. That would be indicative of a swipe. And this system will manage and monitor this table area and let us know when that inventory has fallen below a certain point, and of course then drive an alarm event, alerting the store professional, the loss prevention manager, about that an event is in process.
John, I have 2 questions for you. There's a lot of talk about the cost of the tag, and it's been a preoccupation with the press that, gee, this application doesn't have a good business case until that price tag comes down. And the other thing that's really been an impact to the adoption has been the concern about privacy. How does this application deal with those 2 concerns?
Well, let me talk first about the price issue. You're right, EPC technologies are not yet appropriate for, the economics don't work out for item level. However, what we've done in this scenario is we've taken the EPC technology and placed it inside of a reusable hard tag. which allows, offers a level of protection loss prevention has become accustomed to. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to reuse this hard tag over and over again. Typical hard tags are used anywhere from 5 to 7 years, and therefore the cost of ownership of this particular tag becomes fairly insignificant in the cost of the overall system.
John, just a quick point. A lot of this apparel is made in the Far East. Is it possible that that tag could be attached to the apparel where it's made in Asia?
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, obviously, Checkpoint has a distributed network of service centers around the world that service the apparel industry with ticketing and labeling solutions. And we think there's tremendous opportunity for us to take this tag, which can contain information about the price and the SKU, color, and whatnot. We can connect that to the product at point of manufacture and now use this information as that product moves throughout the supply chain, from the manufacturing operation through the receiving operation, through distribution, right up to the smart zones within the store themselves. On the second part of your question regarding the privacy concern, obviously Checkpoint takes this very seriously. It's a significant issue that needs to be addressed by the industry. However, we feel because we're using a reusable component, this tag will be removed at point of sale, mitigating any privacy issues the retailer might experience.
Well, John, let's talk about the front end of the store. How can EPC help us here?
Well, Dave, a lot of our retail partners are concerned, obviously, about this technology and what it means to their legacy investments, whether that be at the point-of-sale register or at the perimeter of their stores with their traditional EAS systems. So Checkpoint is working with our trading partners to develop solutions that allow them to migrate those systems forward and, in fact, take advantage of the EPC technologies in the future.
Give me an example of how that would work.
Well, let's take an EAS system. This is a fairly typical EAS system you might find in a drugstore or supermarket. And traditional EAS systems either go on or off based on whether the bad guy is stealing an item or not. But with the new technologies, the opportunity to actually know what was causing the alarm to occur provides the loss prevention professional with more information about what was taken, when it was taken, and once again allowing them to correct their inventory position based on those losses.
John, what else can we do at the point of sale?
Well, obviously over the years retailers have invested quite a bit of money into traditional barcode scanners. What we've done here, working with companies such as PSC, one of the world's largest manufacturers of barcode scanners, is to create a dual function product that can not only read traditional barcodes, but can also read the presence of RFID enabled labels. This provides the retailer with the opportunity to migrate their point of sale systems from traditional barcode to EPC enabled barcode reading scanners.
Great.
In this particular scenario, if the retailer is buying the product, by simply completing the transaction, they unlock the EPC label, destroying it in the process, allowing the transaction to be complete and the customer to leave the store without causing the system to alarm.
Great. John, let's look at this last application. Tell me about the handheld scanner.
Well, what this device does is it gives you the opportunity to take inventory remotely by simply waving this particular reader in front of the tagged product, giving you the opportunity to quickly take inventory of high-value merchandise, whether that be apparel merchandise or pharmaceutical products, anywhere in your retail supply chain.
Terrific. John, thanks for showing us the Checkpoint EPC program. I'm very impressed.
You're welcome, Dave. Thank you.